Hilchas Matnas Aniyim Perik Chi. Kol ir sheyesh bo Yisrael, chayovim lahamid mehem kaboy tzedakah. You have to set up a gaboy tzedakah. There should be anoshim yiduim v'namonim, people that are known and trustworthy. Sheyiu machzidnu ala'am me'erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos, v'leichim b'chol echad v'yechad, ma shehuroi litin v'dover hakotzev olav. This is, they would collect money on Friday, on erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. They would collect money according to what was made up, what this person is roy to give. Dover hakotzev olav was a set amount, and they came around and they knew the set amount that these people were supposed to give. Vehein mechalken hamois, they go ahead and they divide this money mi-erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. And v'neisen l'chaloni v'oni mizenes hamaspiken l'shiva yom v'zu anikra kupa. They give them enough money to be able to buy mizenes for 7 days. So it was a weekly distribution. They would collect weekly and distribute weekly. So every erev Shabbos they would collect, and every erev Shabbos they would distribute. Halacha beis v'chein mamiden gaboim sholeikim b'chol yem v'yem mikol chotzer v'chotzer pas u'minimaichel epedes emois mimisham misnadev v'sho. So there was the official collection that happened every Friday, and that was like a dover chotzer. Every person knew how much he was expected to give for that weekly collection. From that they would distribute to the regular aniyim also a weekly distribution, that it would be enough money for them to have food for the entire week. And besides that, there was another collection. There was the gaboim that would collect every day. And over here, we're not talking about money. They would collect food items that people would give, or someone would give money. A pay to say moist. If someone that would just give, it wasn't a weekly thing. It wasn't a daily thing. You know, if someone had money, he would give this money for this daily collection. And at night they would give out this collection to the aniyim. They would give the ani something for that day. You know, you would give him enough food or enough money that shall last him for a day. So it was two tzedakah organizations, so to speak. There was a kupa that was a weekly collection, a weekly distribution, and there was a tamchoy that was a daily collection and a daily distribution. Now, as the Rambam is going to say, a person that lived in the city, a regular person, or a poor person that was part of the person that lived in the city, he would get from the kupa. Shenkim, the passerbys, people that were passing by, and they wouldn't be given a weekly distribution, so they would be getting a daily distribution. They would get from the money that was collected from the tamchoy. This concept of having a kupa shel tzedakah was a takana d'Rabbanan. The Rambam starts chayovin lahamid mem kaboy tzedakah. There was takana, and there's no such l'reina v'lishamaynu that a Yiddish keilah shouldn't have a kupa shel tzedakah. Avol tamchoy, this second collection, which was a daily collection, and a daily distribution, yesh mikei mishenagavei. There were places that had it. Yesh mikei mishelei nagavei. Ba'minig aposhet hayem sheyu gaboy hakupa. The same people of the gaboy hakupa. Before there was gaboy hakupa and there was nu gaboyim. So over here there's another that the same gaboy hakupa machzir b'chol yom. They go around every day collecting. In other words, they had their weekly collection, which they would collect on erev Shabbos, the dover hakotzev, and then besides that they would also have a daily collection. Umechalkin me'erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos, and then they would be mechalik me'erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. That would be their weekly distribution. And obviously, if there would be someone that would need something for that day, he wasn't a person of that city, so then there would be a daily distribution. Halacha dalet. So besides the fact that there was this kupa that they would distribute a weekly distribution, and there was a tamchui which they would distribute also on a daily basis for people that were passing by, is b'tainius mechalkim mezenis lanim. There was a special distribution that was done on tainius, that they would distribute mezenis lanim. V'chol tainius she'ochlo am v'lonu v'lei chilku tzedakah lanim harei elu k'shev chidom. So even though the anim they got their weekly allowance already on Friday, but nevertheless on tainius it was a normal thing to again have a distribution of tzedakah. So the aniyim were expecting it, and the mele they were expecting, and they were relying on that food. So if they weren't machalik, that tzedakah l'aniyim is arei elu k'shev chidom, because the aniyim are relying on that food. V'aleim nemer b'Kabbalah tzedek yolun bo v'atom meratzchem. So with darshan, like tzedek yolun bo means that tzedakah, the Pashto type tzedek yolun bo knows it used to be that tzedek yolun bo, and now v'atom meratzchem. But the drasha is that tzedek yolun bo, they went to sleep with the tzedakah and they didn't distribute the tzedakah. Medvar mamurim, that they're considered meratzchem by not giving tzedakah v'shili noslam mapas v'aperish eichlim b'mapas. When the Seder was that they would distribute actual food, so it is a possibility that the Aniyim were relying on that food to eat after the Tanis. If it would be normal to distribute on the Tanis money or wheat, so they weren't able to eat this money anyways, they would have to go ahead, so they weren't really relying on it. So you still have to do it because that would be the Seder. It's brought down from the Meiri that a tainus, since a union of tainus is l'seir b'tshuva, so therefore it's appropriate on a tainus to give tzedakah l'aniyim. Masha'inkin, this idea that if you didn't give it, it's considered k'sheif chidomim, that doesn't apply if the normal distribution is not food. Halacha hey, hakupa eina nigbes ela b'shnayim, she'ein eisen srora ala tzibur b'momin b'pachs mishnayim. Whereas when they would go ahead and collect this kupa, so it would be like a certain balabatishkai, there was a srara, they would allow to be memashkin in order to collect for this kupa. So therefore, ein eisen srara ala tzibur b'momin pachs mishnayim. V'muter l'haim le'echad amoy shel kupa. It's not there's a concern of believing someone, of trusting someone. You could trust one person. That person could be trusted with the momin shel kupa. But when you're going around collecting it, it should be collected with two. Ve'ena nechlekes, and when you distribute the kupa, so that should be distributed b'shleishim mipnei sheiki dinim amanis sheneisen l'cholechad they machseder l'shabbos. So you give each person what he needs, and they have to decide what does he taka need. So it's a certain level of judgment. It's like a certain din on dinim amanis. Mele dinim amanis, the din is b'shleishim. So nachamol, to collect it is b'shnayim. Mitzad the din of ein man srala latzibur b'momen only with shnayim, not because of trusting, and the distributing is b'shleisha because it's a din of dinim momenis because they decide how much each person should get. V'atamchui is nigba b'shleisha because she'eni davar kosev over there they also have to decide how much each person should distribute, should give, how much they feel that this person should contribute. So therefore atamchui is nigba b'shleisha. And umischalik b'shleisha for the same reason, because you have to make a decision how much that person needs. Halacha vov, hatamchui nigba b'chol yom, v'kupa me'erev Shabbos l'erev Shabbos. V'hatamchui is laniya elam. The tamchui is given laniya elam, people that are passing by, so they're not entitled to the kupa. They don't get from the kupa's here, from the kupa, so therefore they get the tamchui. They only get for one day. V'kupa laniya eser bulvad. The kupa is only for the people that are living in that city, they are entitled to the distribution that is given from the kupa, which is once a week. Halacha zayin, Rashoyim b'nei hoyer, lasis kupa tamchui, to take money from the kupa and to give it into the tamchui. And the tamchui, there's aniyim that need money, and they are not from the people of the year, and there's extra money in the kupa, so you take money from the kupa and you put it into the tamchui, or the tamchui kupa fakert. You have money in the kupa, and you give it in the tamchui. You give it to the kupa. U'lishaneisam, and to change this kupa and the tamchui, l'chol ma sheyirtzu mitzorcho yir. In other words, anything this doesn't have to remain dafka for the aniyah year. Anything that's tzorcho year, they could use the money of the kupa and the money of the tamchui for the tzorcho year. But nevertheless, that's the pashtus advarim. That when you give money to the gaboim, so you're giving them something for the kupa or for the tamchui, or if they decide that there's other needs of tzarchi yoyer. It's pashut that he's going to make a decision what we should do with the money. Before we were talking about Rashaim b'nei Oyer, the people of the year. If there's a chacham gadol that everything is being done al daite, so then he could make that decision to take this kupa or the tamchui and to use whatever he considers necessary for the tzarchi hoyer. Halacha ches gaboy tzedakah ein rashoyin lifrish zeh mizeh b'shuk elo kedei sheyeh zeh perish l'shar v'zeh perish l'chanus v'gevim. Those Gaboy Tzedakah are supposed to go B'shnayim because it's a minui. Why is it a minui? It's a minui because they're entitled to mimim mashkin. They can take a mashkin, so that's called a minui. But Be'etzim, in a situation where they're not actually taking a mashkin, so Be'etzim, they could each one go separately. But since they started off together, so now when they're separating, there's a certain chashash that maybe people think why they're separating. Maybe one of them is separating from the other because he wants to take something, shlei kedim. So therefore they shouldn't be Perish. In other words, over here, they shouldn't be Perish mitzad akshat. However, if they're Perish in a manner that they can still see each other, he's going to the gate, and he's going to the chanus. And vice versa, they're able to see each other from the Vur in the Gemara Basra, from the shar to the chanus, so then it's good, and that's not a problem. In other words, the reason why you need two again is mitzad minui. There's no, normally there wouldn't be a din of shad. You could trust one. But since they came together as two, so therefore they shouldn't separate. Now, motzi agab by moiz bashuk is leyitneim l'tech kisei. Because there's also a chash. Someone's going to see him taking a coin and putting it into his own pocket, so a person will be choshen. So therefore, he should put it into the Anaki Shul Tzedakah. And later on, when he comes home, he takes it out, he makes the cheshbon. What's his? Hoya, and the same din, Halacha Yud, Hoya Gabi Neshe B'Chavei Mona Upori B'Shuk, is Leyitnem L'Tech Kisei. He shouldn't put it into his pocket, even though it's his money. That's, and also when a person is counting how much money is, so you shouldn't count two at a time. You should count one at a time. Again, someone sees him counting, and he sees him pulling two together, so he may think that he's counting one, and he pulled two. So you should count one at a time. So a person has to make sure that no one should be choshedim chas v'shalom that he's stealing any money. Gaboy tzedakah she'ein lem aniyim l'chalik is mitzarfen hamois dinim lacherim. They could take the coins and make from the coins larger coins, denominations, which are dinim lacherim, avalei la'atzmim, which we learned earlier, also mitzad achshat. Now gaboy tamchui she'ein lem aniyim l'chalik, they have food and they don't have anyone to give it to, is also they take that food and meichum lacherim, but ve'ein meichum la'atzmim. And the ein mechashvim b'tzedakah gaboy tzedakah. You don't make a cheshbon to go and start asking the gaboy tzedakah the exact cheshbon of what he has. The gaboy tzedakah takes the money that he collected and he uses that money for tzedakah. But he doesn't have to give up a din v'cheshbon of how much money he collected and how much money he used. We trust him. Now that is a hegdashim agizbarim. The gizber doesn't have to give anyone a cheshbon of how much money came in and what he used the money for. They're done in a trustworthy way. So the kitzer, a gaboy tzedakah is trusted. He shouldn't do things which should cause people to be choshedim. So therefore he shouldn't, if he finds money b'shuk, he shouldn't put it in his pocket. If someone pays him, he shouldn't put it in his pocket. If he's counting it, he shouldn't count it double. But on the other, and also he shouldn't exchange money for himself, or he shouldn't sell the food to himself again because it's ma'irich shat. But not that we're be'emes choshedim. And lepel at the end, once everything was done, so he doesn't have to give a din v'cheshbon because we're not choshedim. Halacha Yud Beis. Mi sheyoshev b'medina shleishim yem is koifen oisei litin tzedakah lekupa in bnei mamdina. At that point in time, he becomes already a member of that Medina, knows he's there long enough, and therefore he's mechuyev to participate in paying to the kuppah, the weekly contribution to the kuppah. Now Yoshev Sham Shleish Chadoshim, he was there already 3 months, so then then he has to already give the tamchui as well, which is the daily collection. Yoshev Sham Shisha Chadoshim, then Litin Biksus Shemechasim Bo'ani Yoyer. There were special funds that were given for clothes to Mechasim Bo'ani Yoyer, and that fund he only has to participate when he's there already for 6 months. Yoshev Sham Tisha Chadoshim is there already 9 months, so then Kaifen Litin Tzedakah Lekfura Shekevrim Bo'is Aniyim Ve'esin Lem Kol Tzarech Lekfura. So the kitzer, so he's there 1 month, he has to give to the kuppah, which takes care of the food. If he's there 3 months, he has to give to the tamchui, which takes care of the food for the people that are passing by. If he's there 6 months, he has to also participate in the fund to give money to give people clothes. And if he's there 9 months, then he has to participate in also the funds to help people that don't have any money to get buried. Halacha Yid Gimel. Mishi Yeshli Mozen Shtei Sudas is Asurle Little Min Tamchui. Tamchui is like a soup kitchen, is like a place where you give them food for the nest immediately, for what they need immediately. So if he has two meals, so then he's not allowed to take Min Tamchui. Tamchui is just to give a person the food that he needs basically. Hoyule Mozen Arbe Asri Sudas, if he has enough food for 14 Sudas, which is 7 days, is Layitel Min HaKupa. He shouldn't take Min HaKupa. Again, the Kupa is a weekly distribution. So if he has food for the next week, so he shouldn't take Min HaKupa. Now, Hoyule Mosayim Zuz, if he owns 200 Zuz, is Aval Pish Ein Nesiv Nesim, he's not doing any business with it, but he owns 200 Zuz. Oy, Sheyeshli Chamishim Zuz, and V'nesiv Nesim, and he's doing business with the Chamishim Zuz. So then is Areza Layitel Leket Shikho Upeo Maisarani. So then he's not entitled to Leket Shikho Upeo Maisarani. However, Hoyole Masayim Chaser Dinner is Afilo an Elef Neslim Kiachot. He could take even Elef if someone comes over to him and gives him 1,000 zuz of Maisarani. So since he doesn't have 200 zuz, so Memele he's entitled to take even Elef. Areza Mutalikach. Areza Mutalikach. He has money, but he owes that money. He knows he has money, but he owes that money, and he has more than 200 zuz. He has the money, and those money was set aside for the ksubas ishtei, that these are something which is designated like an apoitigi for ksubas ishtei, that his ishtei is not going to take her ksuba from karka, she's going to take it from this money, is also arizah mutalikach, it's considered as if he doesn't have any money, is nachamah. If a person has Mozen Shtei Sudas, he's not entitled to the Tamchui. If he has Mozen Yudalit Sudas, so then he's not entitled to take from the Kupa. But on the other end, he's entitled to Maiserani. He's not entitled to Maiserani. He's entitled to Maisis, to Matnas Aniyim because he's an Ani. But on the other end, this special distribution of the Kupa is only for people that don't have food for 14 Sudas. If he has 200 Zuz, so then he's not entitled to any of the Matnas Aniyim. He's not entitled to Leket, Shikhu, Peya, and to Maiserani. If he has less than 200, so then he can take even Maiserani. Not only he could take Maiserani to be mashed in the 200, at that point in time, he could take Maiserani, even though he's going to end up after the Maiserani having much more than 200. He's taking Elef Zuz. Now the Rambam said that if he has Mozen Arba Esri Sudis, then he's not allowed to take Min HaKupa, which means because he has enough for the entire week. But l'chura, when you take from a kupa, you also take from shalosh sudas. You have to take for shleisha sudas for Shabbos. So l'chura, if you have shleisha sudas for Shabbos, so it's an extra suda. So having mozen arba esrei sudas is l'chura not enough for the week because he needs the extra suda. So it's brought down that the pshat is, the Radvaz says that be'emes on Shabbos he eats the first suda, and then he eats the second suda as shalosh sudas, and he won't eat mava malka. Normally a person is entitled for every day 2 sudas. So the first suda is in the morning, the second suda is at night. Mashengan on Shabbos, where there's a chiyuv of shalosh sudas, so if a person has, so he should eat 1 suda in the morning, 1 suda in the afternoon, al suda shlishis, and then he eats suda at night. That suda is malav malka. Mashengan, this person, if he's only having 14 sudas, so the question is, how is he going to give zechayit? So the answer is, he'll use one of the sudas for Shabbos for shalosh sudas, and he won't have Mlav Malka, because Mlav Malka is not such a strong mitzvah. It's not a chiyuv gomer. It's a mitzvah min hamufcher. It's not a chiyuv gomer. So Memela, you shouldn't take from the kupa in order to have Mlav Malka. Halacha Yudalad. Oni shetzarich. You have a poor person that he needs help, he needs tzedakah, he doesn't have what he needs. And v'yeshlei chotzer klei bayis, but he owns a chotzer, and he owns klei bayis. And obviously, if he would sell it, then he would have enough money that he wouldn't be considered a nani. Va'afilo hoyole klei kesev u'klei zov. Not stam klei bayis, he had klei kesev u'klei zov. Is ein mechayv v'neisi limker is basiv is klei tashmishay. Ela muter likach u'mitzvah litnulei. So no, since he doesn't own 200 zuz, even though he owns a chotzer and he owns kelim, so nevertheless he's entitled to take. B'medvar mamurim, what kind of kelim are we talking about? B'klei achilu u'shtiya u'malbish u'matzoy sukiyetzben, which even though he has more expensive ones than he would normally have, but since Lepel, that's what they are, so he doesn't have to sell them, and he's still entitled to take tzedakah. Avalim hoyu klei kesem klei zov of Kigay Magredes Ayeli. He has a silver or gold coin, gold comb, or a gold pestle, things which a normal person would never have out of gold. It's not something which would at all regular to have out of gold, ukiyetzaben. So then is moichron and v'lekeach pachis man, and then we have to see if he has money that he should become uisani. He sells it, and he sells it. He's no longer going to be an ani. Now, b'medvar mamurim that we're saying that he could keep on to his chotzer and to his kalim, and he doesn't have to sell them if it's not talking about a migredes or an eli. B'medvar mamurim kedim shiagia ligbis minam. We're talking about he's a poor person. He goes over to someone and asks that person for tzedakah. He happens to have a chotzer, and he has to have a kalim, and he has kli kesef and kli zov. So from deswegen, there's a mitzvah to give him tzedakah, because he's not, in other words, at this point in time, he's entitled to ask for tzedakah, even though he has kalim, but if he'd sell them, he wouldn't any longer be an ani. Aval achar shegava tzedakah, once he starts collecting tzedakah from communal funds, so then is mechayven esel linker kalim, velika chacherim chusmeam, and only b'achar kachito. Because then, if he's able to sell he's obligated to sell his kalim, those kalim that aren't necessary, the kalim that he could do without, or he could replace with cheaper ones, and then only then will you give him tzedakah. So in other words, nachamol, a person is entitled to tzedakah if he has less than 200 zuz. And even if he owns a chotzer and he owns kalim, and even if he owns klei kesef and klei zov, as long as it's not talking about a migredus or an eli, so he's still entitled to tzedakah. And therefore he doesn't have to go ahead and sell his kalim. He can ask for tzedakah, and giving him tzedakah is a mitzvah. If, however, he reaches a point where he wants to take tzedakah from communal tzedakah, so then he would be obligated to go ahead and sell these items in order to have money. And then, only then, if he doesn't have enough money, then he's entitled to take from communal funds. Only after, only then, achar kachit, halacha tezvav. Bala bayis shehoye mahalach li'ir, v'tomuli hamoiz baderech. He's traveling. He has money at home, but here he has no money, and there's no longer money. Ve'en li'ata mayechel. Is areza muter likach leket shikhu peo ma'isani v'li'onis min tzedakah. And because he's an ani at Eisa Shah, but Eisa Shah he has the din of an ani. Because at that point in time he was taken an ani, even though be'emes he wasn't an ani, but in that point in time, the circumstances, he was an ani. Shari ani haya be'Eisa Shah, olamazad dema, lo ani shehesha sheini chayiv l'shalom. Someone who was poor and eventually became rich, so he doesn't have to reimburse the stockers that he got money from when he was an ani. So over here also, this person at this point in time he was an ani. The fact that he has money elsewhere doesn't change his status. Halacha tezayin, misha hoyuli batim sodas ukram, and these batim sodas ukram may be worth a lot of money, and if he'd sell them, he wouldn't be an ani. He would be someone that has more than Masayim zuz. The problem is only that right now is the winter, and in the winter, if he sell it, he's going to have to sell it below market value, and if he waits until the summer, so then he'll be able to sell it at market value. But it will pay the value. He doesn't have any money. He doesn't have any cash. And the question is to give him meiser ani. So that's his din. Misha hoyuli batim soda sukram. B'meichrim me'akshamim, he's going to end up being meichrim bezul, below market value. B'minichan ad yemei sachama, so then there's meichrim b'shaviyim. They'll be able to sell it at its normal price. Is ein mechayven eselimker. They don't tell him to sell because you have money and therefore you're not entitled to meiser ani. He doesn't have any money right now. Because right now he doesn't have any cash, and he's not forced to sell it below market value. Ella machila nesi meiserani, but here there's a hagbola ad chatzi dameim. In other words, until half of the value of this property. In other words, if he owns property and he's getting meiserani, so until half of the value of the property, that's how the Rambam learns. There's a big machlekes and pshat over there in the Gemara. But the Rambam learns that ein machila nesi meiserani ad chatzi dameim until half of the value of the property. There's normally when a person's entitled to meiserani, you can give him as much as you want. Over here, he's not really entitled to meiserani because he's a usher. He's only entitled to meiserani because lepeil, we're not telling him to sell his fields. So memela, you give him tzibislach, only what he needs to eat. You can't just give him a large distribution of meiserani. And how much is the max that he could get is half of the value. So let's say the value of his fields are 1,000 zuz. And Lepel, he's already received Maiserani in the value of 500 zuz. So at that point in time, you tell him, listen, from now on, go ahead and sell your property. At the very worst, you'll only get 500 zuz. And you already got 500 zuz of Maiserani, so you're basically getting what you would have gotten for this property in the time of Mesachama. So Mamela, you really didn't end up losing. So therefore, the max that you give him, the maximum that you give him for his Maiserani is half of the value of the property, which is now worth would be sold for a smaller price, but certainly not less than half of its price. So knows he doesn't have to force himself to go and sell Shalei B'zman HaMechira. He could go ahead now and take Maiserani, as we said, ad Chatzid Meir. Now, this was a situation where it's the winter and the summer, and Mamela Lepel is waiting for the summer in order for it to go up in price. And then you say it's only ad Chatzid Meir. We're talking about a situation where everyone else would buy the property for more expensive. He can't find a buyer to buy from him only for cheap, because everyone knows he needs money, and therefore because of that they're taking advantage of him and they want to buy his property for less. So over there, no one was taking advantage from him. He was in a situation where it's now the winter, he doesn't have any money, and the question is to wait for the summer and sell at its normal price in the summer, or to sell in the winter at the normal price of the winter. So over there we say that there's a hagboli. He's allowed to take Maiserani, but he can only take Maiserani at Chatzid Meir. Over here, we're not dealing with a situation where this is the normal price. The normal price now is a certain price which is biyoker. But people know that he needs money, so Memela, they want to take advantage. So what's the eight? So the eight is Maiserani is going to give him money, so people are going to stop taking advantage. So there's no agbola how much Maiserani gives him. They give him enough that he should be able to sell his property in a normal price. That's what he's saying here. There's a mechayven is a limker ala echel ma'aseh ani va'elech. Over here, there's no agbolas. Ad sheyimker b'shava and v'yedo hakel she'ena dochog limker. Through the fact that there'll be this din that he's entitled to get Maiserani until he's able to sell for a normal price. So then he'll be able to sell for a normal price, because people will realize that he's not desperate to sell because the vile is being given Maiserani. Halacha Yudches. Oni shegavu lekadei lahashlu machseli. They collected money in order for him to have what he needs. And lepel vehisiru al mashu tzarich. The collection exceeded; it was more than what he actually needs. So the din is already meser shalei, since it was collected for him. So even though it was collected more than his needs, just like we learned before, an ani that doesn't have masayim zuz, if they give him even elef zuz, he could take it. So that is it. They collected for him while he was an ani. U'meiser aniyim, when you collect for aniyim b'chlal, and the aniyim that you collected for, you already took care of them. What do you do with the rest of the money? Is laniyim. You'll give it to other aniyim. Because these aniyim you took care of, then you'll give it to other aniyim. U'meiser shvuyim, if you have meiser shvuyim, in other words, you collected money to redeem shvuyim, and now you have leftover money, is l'shvuyim. You'll do it in the event that there'll be other shvuyim. However, Moises Shavu, if you collected for a particular Shavu, not Shvuyim, you collected for a particular Shavu, so then that money goes Le'eser Shavu. That goes for his needs. Because besides, not the needs of Pidyon Shvuyim, it's Moises Shavu. So that goes for his needs. And Moiser Mason, if a person collected money in order to be Makaber Mason, and Lepel, there was more money that was needed for the people the Mason that you were collecting for, so then it goes to Mason. Meiser Hames, if you collected money for a particular mess, to be Makaber a particular mess, and Lepel, there was extra money, so then that money goes L'Yarshiv to the Yarshim of that mess. So again, if you're collecting for a general union of Mason, or for Shvuyim, or for Aniyim, so then it goes L'Aniyim, not to these particular Aniyim, you're collecting for Aniyim. Masha'inkin, if it was Meiser Ani, so then it's Le'eser Ani. Meiser HaShavi, it's Le'eser Shavi. Meiser Hames, it's Le'eser Mes. Halacha Yutes. Ani shenosum pruta letamchui, a pruta lekupa, mikabel mimenu. So we accept it. However, the imli nosum ein mechayven eselitin. He's a person that's receiving from the kupa. He's receiving from the tamchui. So obviously, you're not going to ask him what's the chiddush. You're not going to ask him chayvanesi to give to the kupa. Nosnu le b'godim chadoshim v'hirzu le'es hashchokim mekabim menu. In other words, if you're giving the oni new clothes and he's giving you back his old clothes, so you take it back. However, if he doesn't give you back his old clothes, you're giving him new clothes, and he's not asking you, he's not giving you back his old clothes, is a mechayven eselitin. You don't mechayven to take back his old clothes, because he could always use the old clothes for certain situations. And memela, so you leave him with the new clothes and with the old clothes.